We're live. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'm one of the panelists on the Belizean Affairs show, and the chairman is not available at the moment, so I'm just going to implement a temporary program until he shows up, and then I'll turn over to him. In the meantime, we have also Mr. Wade, Roody Wade, our next senior panelist, who will be with me tonight on the show until the chairman shows up. This is our Belizean Affairs show number 186. 186. And we're doing that 200 yards dash, and we'll get there quicker than we expect. I guess we are beat the world record. Okay, so let's put the bantering aside and let's get down to the preliminary of the business. Because tonight will be on a serious night when the chairman shows up, as far as all we understand his plans are. But we'll just go ahead and do the preliminary like we always start our program with a prayer and a reading. I'll do the prayer for you tonight, and Mr. Wade is going to grace us with the reading. So I'll just bow my head for a minute or so and say a short prayer. Divine, loving Heavenly Father, thou who art our Creator and the Creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, into thine hand we commend ourselves, asking that thou must continue to guide and protect and bless us. Please continue to be merciful unto us sinners. We pray that thou must bless our country of Belize, its people, and its leadership, as well as this country of the United States, its people, and its leadership. Please bless the rest of humanity as well, loving Father. Thou knowest those people who are in harm's way, who are being hurt sometimes for no justifiable reason. Please be merciful unto them. Those people in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Sudan, and all over the world. Don't know us our trials and tribulations. Please continue to be merciful unto us. Those people who have need of food and clothes and shelter, please provide for them as well. Please bless this program. Help us that we may present a valid program that is worthy of our people's attention and that may serve some positive public benefit for our people and country. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Mr. Wade?
Thank you. Thank you, Leonard.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to sit in your company.
Same here, sir.
And like you say, we await the chairman for tonight, Mr. Gregory Brackett. He's supposed to be in the back queuing up. And to our viewers and listeners, both at home and abroad, again, from me to you, welcome you to our 186th edition of Belizean Affairs. And straight to the reading, we will read from James chapter chapter 5, 10 to 20. Says, as an example of suffering and patience, brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. But above all, my brothers, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or by any oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick, and the Lord will raise him up, and he will and
Amen.
if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The prayer of the righteous person has great powers as it is working. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed frequently that it might not rain. And for 3 years and 6 months, it did not rain on earth. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the earth bore its fruit. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sin. That's my reading from James 5 1 10 sorry 10 to 20.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Um, do you have a short comment that you'd like to make or request or anything of
Oh,
that nature?
we are
The
with
chairman.
the
Yeah, the
chairman
chairman.
is right there. He
Okay.
is ready and ready to roll.
Okay. Well, we'll just go ahead and
Good
talk about
night,
the
Mr.
subject, Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night,
Again,
sir.
I'm highly appreciative of sitting with you guys
You're a little bit on the
virtually.
high side. Greg? Greg?
Yes, sir.
The volume is a little bit on the high side, though.
I
Not
can
very
turn
much,
my
but just,
volume down,
yeah.
but I won't be able to hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, stay where you are. Stay where you was then. Sorry for interrupting.
How is
It's all right.
that? I
I'll just
think
move my
your,
headphone.
I
I'll just
think
move my
your
headphone.
issue,
Don't worry
I
about it.
think your issue, sir, is that mic you are using is not headphone right below your ears, and then that is what is keeping you low. Because I noticed if you move it forward, I can hear you better.
Um, when I put it like that, the loud volume rattle my brain. We are live, you know. Let's leave this alone. You're
Right.
worried. Let's leave with
And
what you
I
have
know
then.
we can
Forget
deal
about
with
it.
that
We're
later
live
on.
already. We're not in the
Okay.
background anymore. We're live. Please proceed.
Again, good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. And when it comes to this 186th edition of Belizean Affair, where we bring to you Belizean issue that is happening, I would like to thank Belizean people at home and abroad for tuning in, and hopefully we can educate you as well as have your input on what is happening in the country. With that said, let me go into the program tonight, gentlemen. I
Yes,
want
sir.
to bring back a recap of the purchase of land that has to do with a hospital in the Belmopan area. I just want to go back to it because I want you, the people at home and abroad, to hear how when these ministers talk, it is never the truth they speak. And when they do that, it makes people wonder about corruption, which we know is happening in governments all over the world. But this is the set reason why we here in Belizean Affairs advocate for the full impact of UNCAP. I believe that UNCAP should have been done and ready so that we can hold our elected officials accountable. But let's hear this statement coming from the Minister of Health, and I will call it out. Let's go to the video.
The report is that payments were started via installments, and then just a few weeks later, the entire lump sum came in. And he suggested that the only reason why there would be a lump sum payment is, in fact, if there is any corruption involved. Thank you.
Marissa, let me answer the question as it is, because it was mentioned by some of these persons that it was a lump sum payment. Let me clarify, though, that the government did not buy the land in just one payment. There was a down payment made. It was done in 3 payments, actually. There's a standard purchasing agreement. A down payment was made in June. In July, another installment payment was made, and then the balance was paid off. Which owner will transfer land to you if you haven't paid for it?
Gentlemen, as you heard the Minister of Health say, which owner will transfer land to you if you haven't paid for it? The specific reason for playing that tape is to call him out, because I want to go now to what the Prime Minister had said previously in regard to the land where they had agreed to put the hospital.
So, Mr. Nigel, what are you going?
Hi, Jay. Everything good?
So, I understand you have some issues and concerns regarding the new land. So, we want to talk about regarding the.
This bill
There
seeks
we go,
authorization for the cumulatively supplementary sum of $86,929,085, of which $37.6 million will be allocated for recurrent expenditures, $31.8 million for Cap 2, which is domestically financed expenditures, and $17.4 million for Cap 3, which is externally sourced expenditures. No doubt, this is no small supplementary appropriation, but it reflects the unwavering commitment of my administration to the people, their well-being, their upliftment, and the country's upliftment. As you may be aware, we have procured $90 million in highly concessionary fund financing from the Saudi Fund for Development to construct a first-class tertiary level care university hospital in Bamopan. A portion of the UB lands have already been surveyed and transferred to the government, and the procurement process will begin shortly.
Now, gentlemen, and people at home and abroad, you heard what the Prime Minister said. First, the Minister of Health says no one will issue land if it is not paid for. Here we have the Prime Minister testifying in the house, the portion of land is already surveyed and they have already gotten it. Now imagine, Mr. Wade, I go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sadly, sad to say then that the way these guys talk, like it's no big deal. You know, you listen to that's the same guy that says, we even get this place because this place alongside is sewer because we have to build a helicopter pad, right? We need a helicopter pad and we have a pad and we need to build it close to the airport because the airport is right next door. Oh, you listen to the venom that comes out of these people's mouth, right? And here you have him lying again. You talk about who you going to how you going to buy one land and who will give you a land without paying for it. So he's trying to tell it, well, the government get a good deal, because look on the amount of payment, look on the amount of time this individual give the government or give I won't say give the people of Belize time to pay him, right? So they try to justify this ludicrous deal, right? And fail to come with the truth, fail to come with the truth, right? We know what the truth is. The whole deal with this land transaction is that it's an election time and they are trying to see how they could come across some quick money. They weren't going to make nothing off the UB deal. Nothing. Because there were too many eyes watching them on that UB deal. So they went back to this close. I'm pretty sure this guy is a friend of a minister. I don't call his name. And here you have the prime minister said he was out of the country and he don't know nothing about the deal, right? And he's the minister of finance, right? He don't know nothing about the deal, right? It comes from that man's mouth, right? So this guy Bernard, they get frightened now because people are blowing up this deal that they make, right? They never expect people me for the question them, and it should me fly over like one little breeze, like all the other deals that they have made under the table with the taxpayers' dollars. But this deal here now, because you hear the man says, the amount of, back to the Briseno guy, in the house, the amount of money, he's asking for, because it's for the people, right? And then they make life better for the people, right? Man, bunch of vultures, hyenas, and these people, there should be a way that these people should be charged, from the Bernard guy and down to Briseno. There should be a way that these people, how they handle the taxpayers' money and how they handle the natural resources of this country, right? Are they doing it legally? Is that the way it should be done? With all this money moving to facilitate an individual so that individual could give them a little kickback, right? These things got to stop. So that's why I say, my people, both our common brothers, have to be aware that we could hold these people accountable and charge them criminally. Because one, it's not their money. And two, they're not coming forward to the Belizean people and asking them permission because it's not their money. Asking them permission if they can do that kind of deal. I'm pretty sure that the people would have said no, right? So it's two things happening here. For me, I think that they're suckering the taxpayers. And secondly, there is a $91 million from Kuwait that is not being accounted for properly. They want to sweep that $90 million under the rug. That is what that is. My personal take on that, right? So we have two things here. He went for the funds to the house for that same hospital. My understanding, that top of the line hospital, which I know my people will not be built. They might start it just like other things, but it will not be completed. And the people will not get value for money, and their money will be swept along with the floods. And like I say, that $90 million from Kuwait, I would like to see some accountability. I would like to see some item where every million goes. But are we going to see that? Is that going to happen, Mr. Chairman? I say no. These guys here need to be held accountable. Sadly, we don't have an opposition, Mr. Chairman, to be opposing this whole deal publicly. They could lobby whenever they have a little event. You could see how they dress people up in their red shirt and pack them up like cattle and take them to their events. So why can't they do the same and lobby, do the same thing and take people in mass number? I'm talking the opposition, the paid opposition. Take them in numbers and protest against this government if they call themselves the opposition of Belize. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Mr. Brackett, you heard what the Minister of Health said. No one will issue land to you if it is not paid for. But here, we had the Prime Minister saying the land at UB was already surveyed and they had it in their possession. Not to forget that land was for free. So I think the answer to what the Minister of Health said came directly from the Prime Minister himself, who is the Minister of Finance. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
As you always say, Mr. Chairman, these people have a tendency to tell on themselves and each other, by the way. Because here we have an exact scenario that fits that statement. The Prime Minister, many months ago, went to the House and mentioned that they were getting this money from the Saudis, not the 90 million from Kuwait, Mr. Wade. That's a different issue, and something that is different and will be conflated with the 90 million from the Saudis. They are two different countries. Yes, they may all be Arabs, but not because they're Arabs that means that they're stupid, or that we, the Belizeans, are stupid enough not to know enough that there's something different going on that's not squaring out. But let me stick to the point. Why would the Prime Minister go to the House and say that they're getting this money to build a hospital on the UB land that they had already at that time surveyed? They knew where the land was. They used the UB campus as a bona fide jinx to say that because the building will be built at UB and will be serving the UB's purpose of health education as well as providing health services to the community, that was a justifiable reason for the House to entertain and to agree, and the Belize people to agree to accept that 90 million and the building of that facility in goodwill at the UB. At that time, they had already known that they had no intentions to build that place at UB because they were already dealing with this piece of land and this gentleman.
From June.
No. Long before then, they've been dealing with this stuff I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay? When he went to the House, he knew what he was saying. He could have changed what he had to change and needed to change, but he know me as song as good. Because then people then may say the same thing when they say no. You ask for the money if you go build the stuff that you be, they're going to build it side of the shit house. What's the logic of that? For a hospital building at that. Aren't you trying to expose people to more diseases and sickness and headaches and all kind of other problems because of the smell of that place and the germs that going to permeate the air and people going to be breathing in, coming to the hospital to get relief from their medical problems only to come and get sick because a few people want to get a few dollars in a finance pocket? But then again, just as how they went to the House, which is the right way to do it, to talk about the money where they may get and to talk about the supplemental money where they may want, they never say that they may want the money to go buy new lands because they don't want the free one, the UB. They never brought that up in the House. From way back then, and all the other House meetings that they have been having to go and get money, and other things that they've been passing laws and all kind of other crazy stuff, none of those other House meetings did they ever brought up the fact that they had already decided to change the location and that they were in negotiation with somebody else to buy somebody else's land and that they had already paid for that land afterwards. Until now, when people are throwing up a stamp, then they talk about they never paid in a one lump sum, they paid in a three. On which of those three occasions that they made payment did they go to the House to get permission to issue that kind of money from the consolidated funds, which is required by law? Okay? The finance minister just can't get up arbitrarily and decide, okay, well, he want to facilitate selling some and buying some lands and some of his friends them, even if it's in good faith on behalf of we government, without coming to the House for permission or at least for and the man don't like him going at the House and do the right thing and he may get turned down because the people that in the House, the majority of them are just, his backbenchers them. And they are all willing to roll with him and they would have probably more easier than not giving him their acquiescence to go ahead and do it. But the whole damn thing was a shyster deal being done behind the scene in secret. And know that then they claim that they don't pay for the land. Then why we just say, well, you don't pay it for, so just let's sit down and shut up and let them go ahead and do what they want to do. That's a bunch of crap. Somebody head need to roll. Bottom line, if his head have to roll as Prime Minister, so be it. If the Minister of Health head have to roll because of that dastardly deed, so be it. Other heads have rolled before. Shabat never did as bad a job as that, or never committed such a high crime as that. And his head was allowed to roll. So don't come to me and tell me no craziness that then don't pay the man in a 3 chance. You don't pay the man, go back and ask for your money.
Wow.
That is not your personal money. You can go or do what you want with free money. That's not how the real world works. Oh, that's the Prime Minister. Please go and talk to Mr. Musa. Sir, I've asked you to do that many times in the past, and I will ask you again. But do it now before it's too late for you. Okay? Go and do what you need to do to save yourself and others from having to be entangled in stuff that we country don't need. There are things happening in we country that he doesn't know, or maybe he's pretending that he doesn't know. But whether he know or he pretend, the bottom line, he is going to be held accountable. I'll leave it at that for right now, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to verbalize much more on that. Everybody else is
Thank
talking, but
you,
talking,
Mr.
talking is not
Brackett.
enough.
Well, well said, but before I go to the main course of our program tonight, I wanted to bring these up so that the people at home and abroad can see what is happening. Because there's also another deal, and I will ask you guys to pass a comment on it after I play just a portion of the deal, because it is very important for the people at home and abroad to see these body deals that is going on. And when you see government involved in this like this, it becomes a red herring.
The coastline, a pine ridge forest, and the Maya Mountains as a backdrop. There are few places as picturesque as Commerce Bight, about a mile and a half south of Dangriga. But it also has the deepest waters of any port in Belize.
Many Belizeans are unaware that Commerce Bight is the only natural occurring deepwater port in Belize.
And that's why tourism investor Basilio Zabané is spearheading a $50 million Belize dollar pocket tourism and luxury yacht project. Ground was broken on Friday with the area rep, the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Tourism in attendance. The project to transform this battered old pier and the surrounding area will be in 3 phases.
Where the actual structure is right now, that will just be slightly modified to receive international small yachts. Okay, and those then will also benefit from the services of the marina itself. From what is here now at the head of this pier, which is 535 feet out, a depth of 20 feet, can accommodate easily these smaller vessels that might require only 10, 15 feet. There will be floating docks, as I've been informed, another 500 feet out that takes you to depths of about 35 feet.
Okay.
That's where the small luxury boats or small cruise ships would be docking.
But to do this, Zabané and his company, Southern Deep Port Development Limited, will have to find $50 million. Okay, so are you confident here today that it is something that will be able to find financing to reach completion?
Yeah, as you know, and you're well read and in tune, $50 million is pittance for these types of projects these days, and it's a lot of money is out there, and we believe that I think Belize is a hot destination, and there are investors out there who would want to invest their money into Belize.
To get the ships here would not be difficult. I think the difficulty is the actual investment. I'm told it's going to be around $50 million to be able to uplift it.
And a big part of stoking that investor confidence is contained in this document, the Parliament-approved public-private partnership, which makes the government more than a vested interest. They're a shareholder. I saw the people.
Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, I stopped the tape right there to show that the government has shared in this. But there's one thing that has not surfaced, and the people at home and abroad does not know. Where is the EPA clearance for this project? We haven't heard of any. So that means this project was just passed and it can go and move on its way without any EPA clearance for the essential needs of those things. I go to you first, Mr. Wade.
You know, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just hope that the people, both at home and abroad, just listen to these guys. Listen to what comes out of their mouth, right? And you see the documents there. So they're all in it. They're all in it. This one will get so much, the other one will get so much, and the man Zabani, that man owns maybe half of Danriga, right? The south, half of the south, right, along the coast. That family, they have no problem because they serve both government. They are and they talk about the EPA, Mr. Chairman. They will not get involved, right? You see the hullabaloo with all the other deals, and you see the deals that this man make with Portico. It's all about deals, 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 where money is. It's all about money for these people. So, and then what they do, they throw in the poor people in it too, Oh, all this millions and millions and millions. And guess who will profit? The people of Danriga, the poor people. That's the end result. No result, and that's the end game for them because it's all a game. How they will get these millions, and you hear the Mala guy. I don't know what the hell he was doing before he become a politician, right? But all of a sudden he said 50 million of pickings. Huh? Golly. Like you said, Leonard, they are nothing but some bunch of crooks, hyenas, and jackals. And look up the dictionary and see the meaning of these words, right? And sadly, like I say, Mr. Chairman and Leonard, you know what? At the end, they said they will say we did do it for the people, for benefit the people, just like the hospital, right? Just like the hospital and Portico, right? To benefit the people, the poor people. And what's their face when they say these things, man? And we all know the end result, Mr. Chairman, right? So it's so sad. I call on the people of Danriga, shake up on the area. This is a bunny guy, on minister, shake him up, right? We will not take that lane down because that is nothing but a hustle, right? Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Back to you.
Thank you.
These
Thank
guys.
you, Mr. Wade. Mr. Brackett, I go to you, sir.
I'd like to piggyback on what something that Mr. Wade just espoused about just now, such as, for example, the meaning of some words. I'd like to throw in one extra word there: patrimony. Patrimony. All Belizeans, by the end of this broadcast, or by the end of this week, or by the end of this month, or maybe by the end of this year, or maybe by the end of the present decennial term, should find out, read the dictionary and find out the meaning of the word patrimony.
Wow.
Why is it that we Belizeans can so easily be bamboozled into turning over we patrimony to people who hates us, despise us, and are only interested in our blood, which is why they suck with blood as often as they could, and then sometimes even when they can't, they fight with what? They get more of our blood. They don't care if we die, but these parasites are not even good parasites, because good parasite not kill the host, because he want to stay alive and he want to keep on drinking more blood from the host. Most vampires not drink out all the blood out of their victims, then left them half dead, so they could recover and continue to produce more blood so that they can go back again and suck them again. So these malignant cancers that we have are worse than virus, then worse than flea, then worse than mosquito, then worse than bat or vampires. Then when you suck you till you're dead. And when you're dead, then still you come back to try eat the rest of your flesh. These are specialized hustlers. Okay? But we Belizeans, we not got talent. At least that's the way the man tell we. That's why they look upon we like a bunch of dodo birds. They look upon we like we so docile to the point of being willing victims. We volunteer ourselves to be the victims. We turn around, for example, in Stan Creek. Now, in Kundong, you can have a special now, right? Stan Creek, Dangriga, the culture capital, right? Why couldn't they have a member of the culture community run the affairs of Dangriga? It's not impossible because we have had that before. Or am I wrong? Didn't we had Mr. Guerrero out of Sand Creek in the 70s? Didn't we had Mr. Mackay out of Sand Creek in the 60s and 70s? Didn't we have Mr. Aranda in the 80s? Didn't we have
Chiste.
Mr. Chiste? And then we also have Mr. Was it Mr. Mena? Was it Mena, the gentleman in from
Mena, yeah. Yeah, Mena.
So we have had individuals that are capable and competent to represent that particular community. Why should majority of them vote in one half-baked Lebanese? We don't have no commitment and interest in the well-being of the country other than just to fleece it as their year representative. People who hate them have no interest in their well-being. They don't hire people from Stan Creek anymore, in companies or in another business. They will bring people way from across the Guatemala, from Melchor, and other parts of Peteng, from Barrios, and from Honduras.
And they do not return back to their company to their country, Leonard. When they come here, they come to stay.
Yes, sir. But I don't have a problem with that. I'm talking about the people, the local Belizean people. How come we are always willing to accept strangers and foreigners to be we leaders? As if we people not good enough, like the Prime Minister said. We don't got no damn talents. What's wrong with we people? And then we see what they turn around and do to us every time we give them the opportunity and they win. In fact, I don't know what these people do, because I don't know that these people get people any money like when they do the Belize City. Maybe. But is that amount of money enough to give up your patrimony and the patrimony of your future generations? Those are the questions I would like for these people to try and sleep on at night. I dare them to try and fall asleep on that, because they wouldn't be able to do so. Now, for example, this thing that the PRA. A project is a project, and whether I be a Belizean, born Belizean as Mr. Zabane is, okay, or it be a foreigner, we always welcome investment in a free country. Always have, currently still do, and probably will always do. The reason why? The country needs development. And the local Belizean people are only good for do that. Suck the blood. And only the foreigners that will come in, see the wonders of the country, invest their money, and then turn around and do like the regular Belizean, because they learn from everything that's going on at home, among the other Belizean community, and especially among the government people them. How easily suborned they are, and how willing they are to be suborned. to the point of giving up our patrimony for a few handful of dollars to the right person. And it's like no big deal. It's no big deal. Nobody's supposed to know, and even when they know, it's no big deal. Because everything will blow over like one lead is. It always have, currently is, and probably will always be. Because who among the present stack of politicians them, whether the older heads them or the younger ones them, have the moral fortitude to be able to stand up to any of the people in government or in opposition and take them to task for the failure that they have been and have created our country or led our country into. Unless we have some new people that are able to do that, we will just continue down the same road. You have new leaders, but the leaders they lead with the same philosophy of the world leaders. All about self-aggrandizement, pettiness, hate and hostility, greed, and disdain. Why do our Belizean politicians have to have such disdain for local Belizean people who are the people who elect them and give them the opportunity to become rich? Many of these guys go into politics without 2 nickels in their pocket. And if they win and survive the first term, they are millionaires. And if they serve 2 terms, they become multi-millionaires. And if they serve 3 terms, all the more, to the point where, I don't know. I'll describe what everybody's supposed to know, what everybody is see. And I don't know that my describing it will make it any better for people to understand. Because they damn well understand. Most Belizean people, we're gone through at least a standard 6, are competent enough to understand what have us where we are. They might not be competent enough to figure out how we're able to and how we will be able to get from where we are to where we need to be. But I'm sure that they understand what we're dealing with. It's just that I'm going to tell you the hard, cold facts. Who gave X? I could care less. And the bottom line and the true fact is, it's not because people don't know. People just don't give a damn. So long as they could survive and get ahead and make it to the next day, so let it be. They have no commitment to the patrimony, to the country. There's no patriotism. People are all about themselves. Now, I understand why some people are like that. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but I understand why some people are like that. Because they had nothing, they grew up with nothing, they amount to nothing, and still have to survive. So they have to be out there on a day-to-day basis, trying to spend their time figuring out how to make a hustle without skills, without the job opportunities. And if you're black, and get hired in a no front office, no business. Because all the businessmen that come to Belize, that come from that people that bring money in from afar to do their business at Belize, they know they hire no black people around the place. And even the Chinese people they know they hire no black people in the store anymore.
Mr. Brackett, if I may.
Yes, sir. Are you
Well
back, Mr.
said,
Chairman?
sir. But it goes beyond that.
Crazy.
It is so simply to see how the government can grant these big investors, foreign investors, big concessions, and when it comes to the regular local class businesses, they are always penalized. They have always penalizing the regular local citizens.
As in this case, Mr. Chairman, they're saying that this business where Zabani developed now is going to be a public-private business. Does the majority of we people and for your country understand what that signifies or what that means? They don't only get 20-year and 30-year concession, tax-free. They don't pay no money, no taxes to the government. The money will come out of you, local Belizeans, taxes when you go buy whatever you have to go buy at a store in order to live. But these guys know they get 20 odd, 30 odd years concessions, but they have first right of refusal or renewal, which means that they go after that 30 years, 25 or 30 years pass, they have the first right to renew. And if any other new government is in power at that future date, that future government will be under the legal commitment by virtue of these dastardly agreement to these guys that they make now to meet that
Mr.
obligation.
Brackett,
One point I'll try to make, Mr. Chairman, but I was trying to explain the foundation why the point is valid. And you'll right now, sir. And that is that they don't only want to receive concessions for millions of dollars worth of tax-free, but public-private. It means that for we public treasury is suborned by virtue of that particular agreement according to the government signing on behalf of us, the Belizean people, when they never tell us that they were getting us involved in that, then did that behind the scene. And now we have to join with this public-private entity to facilitate them becoming successful. Otherwise, if it fails, free money gonna. But anyhow, I hope people get the point that I was trying to make just now, okay? I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Mr. Brackett. But for clarity, we always show and tell. And since we have mentioned about big corporations and foreign investors getting concessions and the local businesses being penalized, I don't want to let the people at home and abroad believe that this is solely coming from our mouth. Let's hear it from one of the businesses.
It all started with an undercover visit from Belize Tax Services in Placencia in April.
And they basically came in, in undercover basically. Male and a female, and then they order, I think, a drink or two.
And now, 4 months later, as many as 20 different business owners on the peninsula are left with thousands of dollars in fines, the minimum being $2,500. Back in May, they were given citation notices of all the sales tax infractions found within their business.
I will stop the tape right there to say what I am saying. Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, at this time of the show, I want to change the segment to mention how us here and Belizean Affairs has been speaking about the CCC Committee and the CCC Act. Tonight, I want to prove to the Belizean people what is the intent of government. Anyone who reads the Constitution and is familiar with our Constitution knows exactly what it says. They will also know that the forebearers who wrote the Constitution specified that it cannot be taken out, cannot be written out of existence. But not only that, Section 1 Part 2 specifies about inconsistent law. And it seems to be that Section 2 and Section 69 is always colliding because the government wants power. So they keep amending the Constitution. And they keep doing this and affecting the fundamental rights of people. And as you can see, the past government and now the present government is utilizing Section 69(9) to try to stop individuals from judicial review. As we can see what happened in the previous state of emergency and the current state of emergency, which I still have not had the opportunity to download and look at. In the past state of emergency, you can see where the implementation was barring even the judiciary from issuing bail or trying to deal with these young men who are being picked up by the police department. And even from the commissioner's mouth, even if they are granted bail, he will still go and arrest them. And I'm saying this to say that is a said reason why we wanted to see what was in the state of emergency. Because I want the people at home and abroad to understand policy and statutory instruments does not trump your constitutional rights. And not only that, we are living in Belize where our constitution is the supreme law of the land and our country should be based on democracy. But you cannot have democracy if you have a one-party government. But to more explain what the government is trying to do, which is to take Belize to a republic, but they cannot get around it unless they rewrite the whole constitution. Because the present constitution cannot be written out of existence. And even if you are coming with a new constitution, you have to take the elements from this constitution and add it to the new constitution. But to present the real fact, let's go to the video and hear what these last scholar had to say. Because our constitution is identical to the Indian constitution.
Hello everyone, I am Anuj Nakade and you're watching Live Law. Live Law is an online legal news portal that brings you news from courts all across the country. In order to stay updated, please subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we will be discussing what is widely considered one of the most important cases and precedents in the history of independent India. It is very definitely the longest case proceeding to ever happen in any case in the country. The case was heard by the Supreme Court for a total of 68 days and the judgment in it was delivered on 24th of April 1973. Exactly 50 years ago today on this date. The importance and impact of this judgment is so clear that the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, announced a webpage dedicated to the judgment that would help researchers across the world to learn more about it. Hence, we at Live Law thought it would be good to bring you a detailed understanding of the case because it is a turning point in history that defines us today. Many of our regular viewers may know that when we usually report on a story, we are very specific about the number of judges pronouncing the judgment. The reason for this is twofold. The first is because the Supreme Court is a court of record, which means that every judgment of the Supreme Court that interprets the Constitution is the law of the land. Any case that is similar to that case or has the application of principles mentioned in the case will be similar in the future. Second, because the number of judges that are hearing the case will determine the strength of a judgment. For example, a judgment by a 5-judge bench will be binding on a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court. The Keshavananda Bharti case is a judgment passed after a 13-judge bench heard it, the largest ever to be comprised in the Supreme Court of India. So what was the issue and why did it need to be heard by 13 judges for 68 days? The answer is a little bit of a history lesson. After independence, since our country had a feudal system, large parcels of land were owned by a few people. The Kerala Land Reforms Act of 1963 was a progressive legislation which restricted the area of land which one can own. Based on the Kerala Land Reforms Act, the government took over the land of such big land owners for the purposes of distribution to the landless people. In other words, the tillers of the land were made the owners of the land. One Edenir Mutt at the time headed by Swami Keshavananda Bharati, owned one such large area of land, and their land was to be taken away under the Land Reforms Act. So, Keshavananda Bharati, a priest and the head of the Edeneer Mutt, challenged the constitutionality of the Kerala Land Reforms Act, saying the right to property is a fundamental right and the government cannot take away his property. He also challenged this decision of the government on the basis that the Land Reforms Act infringed on his fundamental right to equality, the right to life, and the right to manage religious affairs. But the issue was slightly more complicated than that. You see, the power to take away the land under these Land Reform Acts was protected by constitutional amendments. The 24th, the 25th, and the 29th Constitutional Amendment, to be exact. In our Constitution, Article 368 gives power to the Parliament to amend the Constitution. So for Swami Keshavananda Bharati to succeed in the court, he would have to challenge all three of these amendments to the Constitution. Then the question arose, what can be the limitation or what is the extent that these power to amend the Constitution can be exercised by the Parliament? Can the Constitution be amended completely by exercising this power by the Parliament? Before going further, we should get to know these amendments. To start with, the 24th Amendment. Through this amendment to the Constitution, the Parliament gave itself the power to amend any part or any provision of the Constitution. The 25th Amendment Act allowed the Parliament to further curtail the right to property, which was a fundamental right at the time. And most importantly, in relation to the Keshavananda Bharati case, the Parliament introduced the 29th Amendment Act. This act put the Land Reforms Act in the 9th schedule. The effect of this was that the Supreme Court cannot review any laws in the 9th schedule, and so the Supreme Court would not have been able to review the Land Reforms Act either. We urge you to remember the context of the 9th schedule because this small detail will be important later in the video. Since Kerala Land Reforms Act touched upon the right to property which was taken away by the constitutional amendments, Swami Keshavananda Bharati also challenged the constitutional amendments which enabled the Kerala Land Reforms Act to take away the Edeneer Mutt's land. The final question before the Supreme Court was whether the Parliament can amend the Constitution to take away the right to property, which was a fundamental right at that point of time. The Supreme Court, in an earlier case, which is popularly known as Golaknath versus State of Punjab, had stated that the fundamental rights of citizens cannot be taken away by way of constitutional amendments by the Parliament. The judgment was delivered by an 11-judge bench. This is why the Supreme Court now had to form a 13-judge bench to hear Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. More than 100 cases were read before the court during the course of these arguments, which went on for 68 days. Then, the Union government took a stand before the court that the Parliament had the complete and absolute power to amend the Constitution. The issue then became whether there can be a judicial review of Parliament's power to amend the Constitution absolutely. Finally, the court overruled the Golaknath case and held that Parliament has the power to amend even the fundamental rights in the Constitution and upheld the 24th Amendment. But there is a caveat here. What is the extent of power? Is the power unlimited? The court answered this question by saying that the Constitution has something called the basic structure. Basic structure is not defined in the Constitution, but is understood to be the essence of the Constitution. After Keshavananda Bharati, the Supreme Court identified many aspects of the Constitution which is known as the basic structure, such as democracy, the independence of judiciary, secularism, and the principles of equality, etc. That means tomorrow, even if a party has an absolute majority, which means the party with complete control of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, cannot amend the basic structure of the democratic character of our country and make it a dictatorial government. That is the basic structure doctrine. The court also later upheld its power to hold a judicial review of all laws.
Gentlemen, you heard it for yourself. People at home have got.
Mr. Chairman, I wish you knucklehead.
Yes, Mr. Brackett.
Media we have the run on free country. both as lawyers as well as politicians, they would learn the essence of that presentation that you just made just now. Because then Belize would be a much more advanced and better place for its citizens, including myself. And then I wouldn't have
Amen
to
to
be here,
that.
and you wouldn't have to be here, and Mr. Wade wouldn't have to be here, trying to educate we people about stuff when they're really not ready yet to understand, because they're so much under suppression and oppression that they, what we did talk, no make no sense to them in the first place. But it does make sense to a lot of the lawyers them who should know better, many of whom do know better. But they don't want to rock the boat because they want to collect for their part of the pie, which is our problem in our country. I yield back, sir. Thank you very much for letting me jump in quickly.
Mr. Brackett, it goes beyond that.
Mhm.
You heard what the scholar said. You cannot amend the Constitution and turn the country into a dictatorship government. So you cannot turn Belize into a
At that point,
republic
it ceases
by
to be
amending the
a democracy.
Constitution.
At that point, it
And
ceases to
that
be
is
a
why they are
parliamentary
coming to the
democracy.
people. But not only that, even if the people decide they want to go with the government, they still have to take the basic structure in the new constitution. And this
Exactly.
is not our saying, it's what the court ruling say. And we do have a president in Belize, which is the born case. But we have been also talking about the unconstitutional state of emergency. So again, I want to prove to the people at home and abroad, not coming from me. Let's listen to the learned people.
It becomes an earthquake. Why has it continued? Because Parliament, in its wisdom, has amended, proposed and passed a constitutional amendment under 359, which is the emergency clause in our constitution. And that emergency clause says that every article in the constitution, including in the fundamental rights chapter, can be suspended during a period of national or internal emergency. Expressly, they amended it to provide that you cannot suspend even in an emergency. Article 20 expressly says incriminating statements cannot be used against the accused. And Article 21, which is most important, that life and liberty cannot be taken away except according to procedure established by law. And procedure established by law now means not only procedure but even substantive law.
Very valid.
There again you go, gentlemen, unconstitutional state of emergency. When they came with the SI and
But, Mr.
trying to
Chairman,
take away your right to stop you from judicial review under Section 20.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
our problem in
go
our
ahead,
country,
Mr. Brackett.
yes, sir. Our problem in our country is that the people whom we elect as leaders of the country, whether I have majority, super majority, or super majority, as in the case of this present crop of criminals under the guise of a government, it makes no difference to them. They have no respect, regards, or consideration for what is called a constitution. In their eyes, they decide what the constitution is or is not, or should adjust or should not adjust, or whether or not to heed to anything that is constitutional if it serves their purpose. If it doesn't serve their purpose, to hell with the Constitution as far as they are concerned. They are not constitutionalists. They are not people who believe in law. They are not law on other people. They are power brokers. They have the power of governance captured onto themselves, and they haul and pull whatever they need to haul and pull to get their will done. To hell with constitutional prescription requirements or whatever. That's the mentality and mindset of the type of people we're dealing with, which is why when we on this particular platform points out to them their errors, omissions, oversight, or shortcomings, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to be bothered. Those are things that get in the way of them getting their will done, which is why they are so hell-bent in trying to not only just make the laws and modify the Constitution as they are currently empowered to do, but that they want to just eviscerate completely the existing Constitution and provide unto themselves no allegiance to the country and people, much less to any foreign head of state. And unless they can get rid of the foreign head of state, they cannot elect unto themselves, among themselves, a head of state, who then will have the right to have superpower, not only beyond the Constitution, but beyond anything else in the system. The current system that we have is an albatross around for their neck, and they want to dispense with it and anything that has to do with it. That's their agenda. But most of these people wouldn't believe that, because they don't even believe what's happening right in front of their face, not just anything that anybody could tell them what happened to them 10 minutes later, much less 1 year or 10 years later. So all we really do sometimes is just going through the exercise of trying to educate the people who are willing to listen, learn, and understand. And only that, do something about where they go on. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Greg?
The mic is on, muted, Greg.
Yes, tonight's show, Mr. Will and Mr. Brackett, I want to really enlighten the people as to why the government is going around trying to educate you on the Constitution. Their intent, as I said before, is to try to have you tell them what you want to take out so that they can rewrite the whole Constitution. They cannot get it done unless they rewrite the whole Constitution. But not from me. Let's start from the scholar.
One must shake the foundation. It becomes an earthquake. Something that you can't alter at all. Suppose you want to convert it into a Hindu religious state. Answer is no. What is supreme is neither the Supreme Court nor the Parliament. What is supreme is the Constitution. Law, etc., takes second place. Yeah, it may be according to law, but is it just?
On the 50th year of the Basic Structure Doctrine that requires the court to review and restrict Parliament's powers to amend the Constitution's foundational principles, the Indian Express spoke to veteran senior advocate Fali Nariman. The doctrine was evolved by the Supreme Court in the 1973 landmark ruling in Keshavananda Bharati v. State of Kerala, which said that the basic structure of the Constitution cannot be amended by the Parliament.
On the 50th anniversary of the Keshavananda Bharati ruling, we speak with none other than Fali Nariman, who was an additional Solicitor General at that time and has a blow-by-blow account of the case from Sirbai, as he says. Let's understand more about what the doctrine means today and what relevance it continues to have. 50 years of the Basic Structure Doctrine. Does it surprise you that the court still applies this doctrine and it still continues to exist?
No, not at all. On the contrary, if it didn't exist, we would have a constitution by today which you wouldn't be able to recognize as a democratic constitution. You see, it has been a face-saving formula, which only with these three words, Basic Structure Doctrine, has been a face-saving formula for upholding the Constitution as it was intended to be. Because you must remember the preamble, because always remember that in a constitutional amendment, you must see if you are trying to breach the preamble, because the preamble mentions what you want to do. You want to provide justice, equality, fraternity, and so on, and democracy in a democratic republic. Now, does it remain democratic if it is factually not democratic?
But when you say it is to protect the democratic order of our constitution.
Yes.
There is a view in the government that this is actually violating the supremacy of the parliament. How do you see that?
Yeah, you see, the supremacy of parliament is very important. You are right, absolutely correct. But then, in a party system, an one party parliament is not democratic.
But if the government or through the court were to relook or revisit this basic structure,
Makes no difference. They will come to the same conclusion. Because to my mind, I mean, anybody who is reasonable would come to the same conclusion. And I do believe that I still have faith in the judges. Doesn't matter how they are appointed, why they are appointed, sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly, etc., etc. But it's a matter of human temperament, because you don't like to see injustice. What you think is injustice, therefore, doesn't appeal to you. That's a very basic thought amongst all the people. Therefore, you will find amongst judges also, you will find that thread goes, and that's why the word justice is the first word in the preamble. Remember, it is a very overarching thing, and it governs our whole constitution. So when you find some injustice, you must try to see how you can interfere. Because if there is injustice, that's very important. Law, etc., takes second place. Yeah, it may be according to law, but is it just? And that's where the constitution comes in.
Right now, before the Supreme Court, we have this bunch of cases which will have to be tested against the basic structure doctrine, whether that is the amendments to the Citizenship Act or Article 370, all of these cases.
You see, they are all capable of being corrected, even in favor of the government. I don't have any qualm about it. But I don't see any, at least I hope not, in the near future, the basic structure doctrine, whether with the 15 judges or 17 judges or the whole court, will have any difference, will make any difference. I have full confidence in the judiciary. I still have a great confidence in the judiciary. I may not like one or two judgments. I may criticize the judgment, but ultimately I believe the court is the greatest savior of our liberties. And that's why Article 32 is so important.
I want to take you back to 73. In the Keshwananda ruling, you see that some of the anxiety that the court has is coming from what happened in 1930s Germany. Is there a correlation with that time, those anxieties, and what we have right now?
Yes, and that is revealed not so much by our judgment, but by the Constitutional Court of Germany's judgment. You will find that there is a Constitutional Court judgment which upholds this principle, because they had certain basic laws, as they call them. It's the same thing as foundation, basic structure, basic law, which you can't alter. You see, something that you can't alter at all, because you have to call a new constituent assembly to call that. And that is impossible in our country, because every Indian today, and there are so many of them, the world's largest population, has two opinions on every subject. So it's impossible to find, to have today a constitution, a new constitution of any sort drafted by anybody and accepted by anyone. So therefore, it's our constitution which keeps us all together, quite frankly.
In these 50 years, has...
Mr. Chairman, would you allow me?
Yes, sir.
Would you indulge me in making a further commentary on the great gentleman's presentation and his wisdom?
Go ahead, sir.
When I listen to that gentleman, I feel like I'm sitting at the feet of a Gamaliel. You know what a Gamaliel is? In the Bible, you have heard about the Gamaliels, the people from whom wisdom, radiates. You see them and wisdom just, you get to be in their presence, and wisdom just jump out of them into you. That's a level of. But anyway, let me stop. I ask you permission to comment on the good gentleman presentation because the philosophy that he was espousing is the same philosophy to which I ascribe and have been trying to bring to other people's attention. Okay? That is that the fundamental principles of justice, first and foremost, requires that human beings relate to each other with some modicum or attitude of reasonableness and fairness towards each other. Okay? And whenever that is missing, it's the recipe for conflict. But the fundamental principle of justice, as the gentleman pointed out, requires that people, when they see injustice done to somebody else, that they jump to their feet and try to defend that person from that injustice. Only when we stop injustice being done to others can we expect that other people will stop injustices being done to us. There's a thing called empathy, and it is required in the dealing and dispensing of justice. So the fundamental principles of justice or jurisprudence or law, which is required to govern and control any society, is basic. The basic and fundamental principles of judiciary practices or justices, that's why they call the highest court of any country, they're not calling judges like we say they're not judges. They are called jurists. There are people who are far above the regular judges. Okay? And their temperament, as the gentleman referred to earlier, is what we had been talking about earlier today, Greg, when we spoke about Judge Conte and the level of gravitas that these people have. And they have no fear for being right. They can stand up and speak to power, as compared to the last ruling from that last judge that went with the government to facilitate the government continue the violation of the Constitution when in fact she is sworn to uphold the Constitution. That's the difference of temperament with somebody who have faith in their own skin and believe that they're in the certainty of their acquired knowledge and their willingness and ability to put their lives on the line to make sure that injustice is not done under their leadership or under their hands. It is expected of judges to rule according to the law, which is why I had a complaint about the lady's judgment as regards to Section 19 issue in our Constitution.
We will prove that also tonight, Mr. Weir. I will go to you. I want 3 minutes from you because I want to prove what Mr. Brackett said. I want to prove to the people at home and abroad what the government is after, why they want to rewrite the Constitution. I keep saying it, the basic structure is a bar for them.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot get by it, and this is why they are coming to the people.
But they're not coming right to the people. They're going around in circles.
The government, because the people is not educated enough to know what is happening. They are only telling you what they want to tell you so that you can side with them. And they are leaving it out. Mr. Wade, let me go to you before the next video.
So very true, Mr. Chairman. So very true, guys. And the way I'll continue on what you're talking about, what these hyenas and jackals are trying to do with our Constitution, right? Now, they cannot do it. What they want to do, they want the permission from the people, right? So that's why you see they're going around and around, like you say, and They say they're going to educate the whole country. Have they done
Lie,
that?
lie,
No.
lie.
But you see, they will put it out there, yeah, we have done it. And we, have this and did this, and now this is what we are going to do with the Constitution.
Like what the judge
Because
says,
we
they
have
meet their requirements.
consulted the people. It's finished,
And maybe that same judge will turn around and say they have met their responsibility, they educated as much of the people as they could, and therefore they're entitled to go ahead and change the Constitution.
So when Brisenio and his minions sit in cabinet and they come up with this is what, and they present it to you in the House, done deal. Because why? The word is, we have consulted the people. You see what they did with the ICJ? They got what they want. They bamboozle and they turn everything to get what they want. You see what they did with Honduras in the claim? Right? Did they go to the people? No, they accepted Honduras and not to mention we have a banned Honduranian in our cabinet now here. But you see what they did? What the Courtney guy did? Was the people consulted? No. Right? So, Mr. Chairman, rightfully said, they're going to use that word consultation. And the people says it's okay. And although the people didn't say it's okay, but they will say the people said so. So who will hold these crooks, these criminals accountable? Do I want to live in their world? The world that they have set out in their phantom, in their illusion, in their stupid minds, that what they want to do with this country? Do I want to live in what they want to do and the outcome? No, I don't. Because it's nothing good. Nothing good. So, Mr. Chairman, like I say, you're going along rightfully, and that is exactly what they want to do. And back to you, Mr. Chairman. It's so sad how these people bastardize our Constitution, and who hold them accountable, guys? Who hold no even these suckers here don't even respect the court's decision. The court tell them to do this and do that, do it. No, they could give a damn about what Chief Justice say or whatever her name is or whatever his name is. Do they care? Because then they're going to turn around and use the same people money to fight the same people. Right? They're going to use our same money to fight us. That's what these suckers are doing to us. And who is so blind to see it? And who will hold these suckers accountable when they come out of office and they're 90 and they're 95 and 100? Who will hold them accountable? That's my thing. Go ahead. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. I just had to get that off my chest.
I thought it was mine.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, yes, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if Greg. I think Greg's stuff is off.
Your mic is off there, Mr. Chairman.
Greg?
Your mic is off, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Well said. The issue that the government has with the present constitution is they want to get rid of Section 20 that gives you judicial review. That is why they added Section 69.9. Let me tell you what 69.9 says. Okay? For the removal of doubt, it is hereby declared that the provisions of this section are all inclusive and exhaustive, and there is no other limitation, whether substantive or procedural, and the power of the National Assembly to alter this Constitution. It means they don't want to be held accountable. And I keep telling the people it's your fundamental right they want to fool with. Mr. Chairman, I will beg your endurance for us to go over a little bit tonight because we must get to the end of this. Let me go to this tape so the young lady can
Go ahead,
show
Greg.
you.
You are the chairman, remember, for tonight. Go ahead.
Let me go to the tape so this young lady can break it down to you, the Belizean people at home and abroad, and why the government keeps bastardizing the Constitution. Let's listen.
Friends, this is the very first video of a series of videos that I'm going to do here. These videos will help you understand important principles and methods. So let's get started. Today I am approaching the basic structure doctrine. Now while discussing this topic, two very important articles are Article 13 and Article 368 of the Constitution. Now Article 13 serves as the protector of the fundamental rights, whereas Article 368 holds the power to amend the Constitution. Now when you clash Article 13 with Article 368, some very important questions come before us. Like, can the Constitution be amended by the Parliament? Can the preamble be amended? Can the fundamental rights be amended? And the most important of it all is the amending power of the Parliament exercised under 368 absolute? Are there any restrictions on it? But in the end, you will realize the whole discussion is a tussle for power. The question is, who's supreme? The Supreme Court or the Parliament? So we'll decide what the answer is in the series of events that I'm going to discuss now. Now the first case in this discussion is the Shankari Prasad versus Union of India. The first Constitutional Amendment Act was challenged in this case. Now the first Amendment Act, amongst other things, is widely known for the abolition of zamindari system. So what happened in this Amendment Act was, there were certain laws that were brought about which were curtailing the right to property. And in order to protect those laws, Article 31A and 31B were inserted in the Constitution. So people started looking at 31A and 31B as an attack on the right to property. So the question arose whether the right to property can be usurped, whether the parliamentarians amend the fundamental rights. The judgment followed that Article 13 Clause 2, which is a protector of the fundamental rights, the word law in it only means law in ordinary sense. That is, when law is made exercising the legislative power and not constituent authority. Therefore, Article 368 includes the power to amend the fundamental rights. Now the next case in this discussion is the Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan. The 17th Amendment Act was challenged. Why? Because it was restricting the powers of the High Court. Now again the discussion started, what can be amended, what cannot be amended. So in this particular case, they took a view of the earlier case, that is the Shankari Prasad case, and said that the meaning of the words amendment of this constitution under Article 368 meant amendment of any part of the constitution, including fundamental rights. Justice Hidayatullah and Mudholkar had a little difficulty accepting the view that the fundamental rights are nothing fundamental to the constitution. Even they can be amended like other parts of the constitution. In this judgment, it was also said that even if Article 368 did not have the power to amend the fundamental right, the parliamentarians can at any point of time do a suitable amendment and include those powers. So finally, in Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan, it was settled that yes, the whole of the constitution, including the fundamental rights, can be amended. The next case is of Golaknath versus State of Punjab. Again, the 17th Amendment Act was challenged. This time the question was whether the power to amend the fundamental right is unlimited or limited. Now this case is important because an 11-judge bench was constituted. Such a large bench was constituted for the first time. In this case, everything was reversed. The Supreme Court said that the power to amend the constitution, including the fundamental right, is not an unlimited power. It is subject to limitations of judicial review. So this case is important because until now we had a settled position that 368 had an unlimited power. That is, even 13 could not stop 368. But this case reversed the position and said what? No, 368 is subject to limitations of judicial review. The Supreme Court even went ahead and said that Parliament does not have any power to amend or abridge the fundamental right in the way of amendments. Further, the ambit of Article 13 Clause 2 was discussed. They said that the word law used under Article 13 Clause 2 includes amendment, and if any amendment violates fundamental right, it would be void. So you see, up till now there has been a tussle for power, for who's supreme, whether the judiciary is supreme or the parliament is supreme. In the Shankari Prasad case, it was settled that the parliament is supreme. In the Sajjan Singh case, again it was said that the parliament is supreme. But for the first time in the Golaknath vs State of Punjab case, it was said no. Article 368 is subject to limitations imposed under Article 13. So the judiciary is Article 13. So the judiciary is supreme. Now in a movie, if you have two heroes, the first hero comes up and says, I am supreme. We all know that in the next scene only, the second hero would come up, hit the first hero and say, but you were mistaken, I am supreme. Similar is what happened next. The parliamentarians could not digest what happened in the Golaknath case. So they came up with the 24th Amendment Act. They did the following changes in Article 13 and 368. First, in Article 13, they included 13 Clause 4, which said that nothing in Article 13 would apply to 368, which means that anything can be done under 368 and it would not attract the attention of judicial review under 13. Then, under Article 368, they changed their marginal heading. Previously, it was the procedure for amending the constitution. Now it reads, the power of the parliament to amend the constitution and the procedure thereof. Lastly, they added clause 3 to 368, which said, nothing in Article 13 shall apply to 368. So the crux of the 24th Amendment was to exclude the applicability of Article 13 onto Article 368. Therefore, everything that was held in the Golaknath case holds no value after the 24th Amendment Act. After the 24th Amendment Act, it was clear that the Parliament can dilute the Constitution, including the fundamental rights. Now, our next case needs no special mention. It's the Kesavananda Bharati case. Again, the 24th Amendment Act was challenged. The question arose that what is the scope of amendment that the Parliament reserves? Now, this time the Supreme Court gave a very balanced judgment. They said that the power to amend the Constitution was already implicit in the Constitution. The 24th Amendment Act merely made it explicit or declaratory. However, they said that the basic features cannot be amended. So in simple words, the crux of Kesavananda Bharati case is that you can amend the entire Constitution to form a new Constitution. However, it should survive through its basic features, which means that there are certain implied restrictions for amending the Constitution and the basic features cannot be amended. Coming to the question of scope of amendment under Article 368, the Supreme Court said that it was not the intention of the constitutional makers to use the word in its widest sense. It was their intention and belief that fundamental rights along with fundamental features would always survive through in a welfare state. Now the question comes, how far can the provisions of Article 368 be amended? The Supreme Court said that an increase or decrease in the power of 368 should be such that it should not lead to total destruction of the powers, and a decrease should be such that it should not mean freeing from all restrictions. So what they mean was, any increase or decrease in the power of Article 368 should not authorize the legislature to destroy the basic features of the Constitution. That's it. Our next case is very important as it qualified certain features as basic features. Also, through this case, Clause 4 and Clause 5 were added to Article 368. Now, what was the importance of these two clauses? These clauses said that even if Part 3 of the Constitution was amended, it cannot be questioned in any court. They clearly said that there is no limitation on the power of the Parliament to amend the Constitution. Now this case put an end to the controversy of who's supreme, the Supreme Court or the Parliament. They said that The parliament represents the will of the people. And if the people want to amend the constitution, they can exercise their power through the parliament. There should be no limitation on that. The Supreme Court in this case also said that the theory of basic structure is very ambiguous and vague, and addition of clause 4 and clause 5 in article 368 rectifies the situation. Now this is the last case for our discussion. In this case, the validity of the 42nd Amendment Act as well as the two clauses that were inserted by the 42nd Amendment were challenged. The Supreme Court said that these two articles were attacking the basic features of the Constitution. Therefore, the Supreme Court held it unconstitutional. After this case, it was finally settled that the Constitution is supreme and the Parliament cannot exercise unlimited amending powers. And finally, it was said that the Constitution is a precious heritage and therefore you cannot destroy its identity. Hi friends, I hope...
Mr. Chairman?
Gentlemen, you heard it. That is why they are coming to the people. When they added Section 9 and Section 9, they were trying to take away Section 20 that gives the people judicial review. And they keep attacking the Constitution through amendments. But regardless of what they do, the identity cannot be written out of existence. And they know that. They know that. This is the issue happening in Belize with our Constitution. Instead of the government trying to strengthen it, like the Bahamas did to help its people, they are trying to dismantle it to serve their own purpose, to try to turn our country into a republic by giving us what they call a new identity. Yes, Mr. Brackett.
Yes, sir. One easy way, all the explanation what the young lady did just now, with all the different cases and the different scenarios where they were having challenges to the Constitution, or the Parliament was trying to observe the superpower by virtue of representing the people, you get to understand that any Parliament that wants to assume powers or grab powers onto themselves, and are those powers violative of the people's fundamental rights, is not a bona fide Parliament. In other words, the Parliament would not be destroying the foundation on which the Parliament exists in a democratic law and order society. Anytime Parliament tries to grab power and use those powers against the interests of the people who elected them, it is the right of the Supreme Court then to step to the plate under judicial review, as we have it in our country under Section 20. The way how you explain the whole of what she did here just now is by saying that amendments can be made to the Constitution, certain parts of the Constitution, and that other parts of the Constitution cannot be written out of existence. Simple as that. The Congress has the authority to make laws, but those laws must be made within the bounds of the constitutional constraints. Whenever they go out of the bounds of the constitutional constraints, they are then creating laws that are null and void according to how the Constitution describes them. Because
Exactly.
the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, not the new laws that the Congress makes. Especially if they are going to overreach and grab for powers to violate the very Constitution that they have sworn allegiance to. Because every member of Congress have to swear allegiance to the Constitution that is in power at the time when they win their elections. In India, in Canada, in Australia, in England, and all other parts, including Belize. But these jackals, they keep trying to hoodwink people and bamboozle people into believing that because they are empowered to make laws, which they don't say within the constitutional bounds, they forget to remember or to point that out. They just stick with the part about their empowered to make laws. And therefore, any laws that they make arbitrarily and capricious, violative of the Constitution, or however, should be accepted as being good enough and trump the Constitution. And the Constitution itself speaks to that under we Constitution under Part 1, Section 2.
Exactly.
Any
Exactly.
law that is violative of the Constitution is unconstitutional and is ruled null and void. What part of that they don't
Android.
understand or don't want to understand? They have hidden
That
agendas that doesn't comport with the bunks
that
of the
is why,
Constitution.
Mr. Brackett, that is why
You're
the
welcome, Mr. Chairman.
SOE is unconstitutional.
We have told them that over
Because
and
you
over, and they still
cannot
don't care.
take away Section 20 that gives these young men judicial review. And that's what they wanted to do. That
But
is
the
why
crazy
they are
commissioner,
so
who is a
bent.
lawyer, says that he won't go and arrest them anyhow if the court give them bail. Who is he?
Section 69.9.
Who the hell is
Section
he?
69.9 that is not good. So you
Guys are
hear it
just a
for
bunch of
yourself, people at home and abroad.
rogue cabal of
Now you
mobsters
know
under the
what
guise
they're
of a
after.
government.
Mr. Weird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure, and we're way over time. It's always a
Yeah,
pleasure
you gotta be
to
careful
sit in
with
your
that.
company, Leonard. It's always a pleasure. I
You're
just
welcome,
hope
sir.
that this segment of our show, sheds some light as to what is going on in our country. For those who have eyes, let them see, and for those who have ears, let them see, because this is real. I hope my people that we show and tell and see these leaders for who they are, past and present, and they keep coming. They just don't want to leave. Wonder why? Their agenda. They have an agenda. Their agenda, in my view, is not germane. Is not good for democracy. It's not good for you and your children, right? So I just hope that you learn something from this segment, and it's so sad to see how these people bastardize our constitution regularly. We see it happen over and over with no care in the world, and we see who at the end who suffers,
And who
right?
benefits?
Who they do it to please and please and don't please, and you see their agenda over and over is nothing good, right? And the little young politician that comes in, they are roped in by the older hyenas, because the older hyenas, they know.
They
They
are
know
taught.
how to run this show.
They are taught. They are taught they are taught the tricks, the old
Yes,
tricks,
exactly. Right?
how to
So
become
that's why you
efficient.
see there again, they handpick their followers, these older jackals. They handpick their followers, right? Out of 110 of them, they will pick that one that will in line with them, and says, yes, sir, no worry, I'm there with you, and you could do anything you want, right? And I will give you my yes to everything you do. So that's why you see they do what they do. And my people, open your eyes, please, because the worst is yet to come. On that
Mr.
note,
Wade, Mr. Wade, on what you said just now, these guys are so messed up and treating us so bad to the point that they have to be getting outsiders, Honduranians now, to come and sit on we Congress for control we and run the show on top
yes,
of we.
yes,
We're not
yes.
good enough for we
We
participate
not,
in the
yes.
process anymore.
So right on
If
that,
somebody
Leonard.
that could come from the outside and fall in line with their agenda,
Yes,
they're willing to accommodate and make room
yes,
for.
yes,
While they try to kick out me and you and dispossess we of we
yes,
patrimony and for we basic rights.
yes. So sad. So Greg, I want to thank you, my brother, for Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for showing these show and tell and educate. I hope some attorney get educated on what you play there, just so you know, Greg, because it's right on their plate, right? They should take heed
Mr.
and
Wade,
learn something and
Mr.
do the
Wade,
right thing.
Mr. Wade, you speak with my brains.
So,
Exactly the same thing I was thinking about,
oh
and I was hoping
man,
to get a chance to say it.
go ahead.
Because
I
these
pass it
guys,
on to you, Leonard. I
yes sir,
pass it on
because
to you.
these attorneys and learned people in our society have a good way of being able to weigh in on these matters, educate the people, as well as put up a battling front or a bulwark against the government to force them to stay within the bounds of the Constitution and abide by the laws that are going to benefit all of us as a whole. Thank you very much again, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for such a wonderful program tonight. God bless all of you guys, and God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Mr. Wade, I go
sir?
to you for a quick closing.
Mr. Chairman, we'll run out of time. At the most, we have about 2 minutes left right now, sir.
Yes.
Because the thing I shut down on way.
Yes, thank you guys. It's always a pleasure. I just hope that, with the, like I say, take away something from our program, and to our viewers and listeners, both at home and abroad. I want to thank you for supporting us, for watching our show and sharing it and educating the masses out there. On that note, I want to say good night, and it's always a pleasure, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure, Leonard, to sit in your company.
Good night.